demonstration I did. I did it. I think I said there were kind of two ways to do flowers. One way was to draw like every single petal, which is what I did on the sunflowers. And then the other way is to sort of just put where the flowers are going to go, and then it's more of a drawing while you paint situation. So I'm going to try that this time. I'm working on a square 12 by 12 inch piece of Pastel Premier, and I didn't have any gray, so I'm using the red, even though that doesn't seem like the best choice since most of this painting has a lot of pinks and reddish tones in it, but that's what I had, so that's what I'm using. So I'm just trying to see find some guide marks, some to where to start my composition. And I do see that the edge of the table is right about halfway. So then this flower comes down below the edge of the table. Here's the vase. Here's the pumpkin thing. And so I want you to actually notice the way I have my lighting set up. And I usually don't have the light coming from the right. Usually I have the light coming from the left. And the reason is that people read the paintings this way. So they're having to cross over the dark areas first to get to the light areas. I don't know if it's a big deal. The paint Vermeer sometimes did that, where the dark was facing you. And the other guy that did it was, God, that guy from Philadelphia. Okay, maybe I'll think of it in a minute. But most Western artists use the light coming from the left-hand side. So if you think about Rembrandt and also Vermeer, a lot of times, Thomas Eakins often did his portraits with the dark side of the person's face on the outside. Yeah, so he must have had his light coming from the left too, but the way he set it up, he had the dark side of their face facing you. So it's just really, it's what you want. You just, you want to a little bit think about what you want. Not just let things happen to you. Although I'm just going to say I just kind of let this happen to me because I was kind of in a hurry as usual, which is unfortunately seems to be bizarrely here. My lifestyle now is to be in a big hurry all the time. Okay, so I'm just trying to place everything, and I'm trying to take control of the whole surface of the painting. I'm trying not to finish any area too much. What's really funny is I took a lot of pictures, but almost all of them were unusable because this big bud thing here was kind of right in the middle, and something about the way the perspective of the camera works, it just made it was like this, giant man-eating plant there in the middle. So a lot of my pictures turned out to not be worth having. And so this is one of the few where I stuck that bud over there on the side, and it doesn't look so out of proportion and weird. Okay, so I think one flower I'm going to have to kind of... And I did draw my little outline here, so I'm composing to where the frame would go, not, not to the whole paper, because part of the paper is going to be under the frame. And there's a few petals here I just do want to kind of draw in a little bit. The ones that are out here on the edge. This paper kind of erases. You wouldn't want to have to erase too much. Now, the other day, somebody in my class was erasing with they had their a little paintbrush, and they were using that just to erase their charcoal. And I thought that was a pretty good idea that I don't believe I'd ever thought of. I talk about using a paintbrush to knock off some of the pastel, but it actually seemed to work really well. And some of the papers are just so sanded that you really don't want to use your hands. All right, so this is not quite drawn right already, we can see. Now I can't actually see the shadow very well over here, but I know it has to be here. And I know as it goes over these folds, it would have to round over the folds. So I'm just going to make it do that. So I have a combo of light from a window and light from an electric lamp here. And then I did manipulate this painting, this photograph a little bit. Just in photos, I desaturated it some because it was really intense. And I took out some of the warmth because it was, the incandescent bulb was really hot. And I just thought maybe I'd like it to be a little cooler. So you see how each of these, I don't know what to call them, little divot things from the shape of each one makes the shadow be a little different. It comes up. So if I was directly in front of one of these, it would be a straight line. So this is the closest to where I'm standing, this one. It's the straightest. And then the way the perspective works is the ones to the right of that center, or that place where I'm standing, they curve more and more as they get further away. They curve like this. And then once you get on the other side of that closest to center place, they curve more the other way. Okay, and the water line. So glass doesn't take light and shadow. So I made a whole thing on how to measure. It's a handout, and I think what I should do is put it on my website would be a great idea, because it's very hard for me to show how measuring works here. But the way to become a better drawer is to draw with your eye first, and then take some measurements, some comparisons of proportions, and then be kind of harsh with yourself about correcting those. And that's what makes you a better drawer. So drawing with your eye, because you don't want to, sometimes I do a few measurements first, just to be sure that I'm, like maybe how wide is something compared to how tall it is. The whole still life, how wide is it compared to how tall it is? Yeah, and I'll see if I can figure out how to do a video on measuring. But meanwhile, I did make what I thought was a pretty good handout. So I'll put it in my website, and I'll just put my website address in the description when I upload this video. All right, okay, so I was back up here. So here's some of that stuff. There's this, there's that. There's a petal that goes right here. All right, yes, I am counting petals here. But this is the only one I'm going to do this on. And I'm trying to pay attention to which petal overlaps which other petal, because that's going to make a difference with little patterns of light and dark too. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. Okay, so I got that. Okay, so yeah, just keep looking for a few little landmarks here that I can have. And then instead of starting with the flowers, because the flowers are the closest things, they look the most like the paper, I'm going to start with the background. And it's kind of interesting. Over here, it's a little more yellowy, and I think that's because that electric light is shining right here. And then over here, it's more blue, and that just must be from the window, from the light in the window. It's pretty interesting because really it's a white wall, but I don't think you'd really know that. All right, so I want to be sure I don't get that wall too light. So I'm squinting at it really hard, and I think actually what I'm going to do is put in some yellow right away. And I'm only working with my Rembrandts right now. I only have my Rembrandt set out. And I really like them broken into pieces like this. Maybe this is a little over 1/2 inch long. I feel like that's the size I can control. Sadly, nothing really stays that shape very long. Okay, so there's my light on my, and I'm gonna also put in a little light up here just to help me not get my background too light. Okay, and so then I'm gonna stare at these light spots in the photograph I'm working from and paint that background like it looks when I'm not quite looking at it, how it looks out of the corner of my eye. And I think it looks green. All right, thing is driving me crazy as usual. It's just, oh my God, it's hopeless. Problem is, I never think about the fact that it's driving me crazy until I start drawing. Okay, I think I really fixed it now. Okay, good. Okay, and then I'm gonna bring some of that green over here too. And then I think I'm going to shift over on this side to violet. And I'm going to get my clips out of the way more. Oh God, see, here's the place I really wish already I'd drawn it a little better. Okay, so here's this. So you don't want to feel confused when you start your drawing. That's, to me, that's the key thing. I'm like, I have enough things that make me confused, like working on color, working on value. I don't want to also be confused about my drawing. So I'm just going to draw these in a little better. Right in there. So now I'm going to switch over to this purple. Oh, good. I made my easel better. Problem is, every time I take the board down, it goes back to a problem because it's all just, you know, kind of cobbed together in the back with some boards and some 1x4s and some foam core folded up. All right, so yeah, you might think this is way too dark, and I don't know, it might be, but I'd always rather have my paintings start just a tiny bit too dark and then lighten them up again. But if you're having a lot of trouble painting too dark, then maybe you wouldn't want to follow that. Maybe I'm painting outdoors a lot. Oh, that was way too bright. That's the table back there in the dark. But that's no good, so I'm just going to put some purple over it right away. Okay. All right, and now the whole, you know, the problem with doing these things that have designs on them, probably I should have drawn that design a little bit better too. And it's gonna, the design right in there is gonna follow the curve too. So it's okay, because the design is a white on a blue, I can just get the dark blue in there right away, and then I can always come back and put the white design on top. Okay, so I need something really dark. And another thing that's quite confusing, of course, is just the whole, the fact that it's, there's light and shadow and a design. So that does make things a little tricky. That's interesting. I didn't really use a super dark blue the last time, I guess, when I did the other painting with the Rembrandts. And here's the really dark blue. That's what I really need. God, that looks so purple. I was just going to use purple again. And I'm basically just trying to get everything covered so I can work on the flowers without having to look at all this red paper. So I've got a lot going on here. I've got blue, and then I've got blue and shadow, and then I've got white, or this light color, and then white and shadow. So, yep, it's a lot going on. but I'm just, you know, trying to keep it simple here as I start it. Okay, and then with the glass, the top part of the glass just looks really dark. Oh, there's the dark blue I was looking for. All right, well, I don't really want dark blue. Okay, but maybe I do want the dark blue first. And there's a tiny bit of wall right there and a tiny bit of the blue. So tiny things like that are kind of important because they give you the clue that, you know, this is behind, not somehow in front. So I always look for little places like that. And that blue comes up in here too. Okay, so then I'm just going to put the dark green on top of that. So it's hard to remain calm in a way, you know, but you do just want to, you know, just be a little calm. This is just the beginning. You know, you have to stare at it and you have to be brave, but no one else is going to see it. I mean, everyone is going to see what I'm doing, but no one is going to see what you're doing. You're in the privacy of your own home. So I just, you know, try not to worry too bad in the beginning. And I don't know what to use for this. I'm just going to start with purple. I know that purple will look like a shadow color. I want to be sure I get that to look like a shadow color. And whatever I start with, it'll influence my next decisions. So in a weird way, it doesn't quite really matter what you start with. You just put something on there. And then see what else you have to do. So just remember, if you change colors, like this is going to be, okay, well, I'm going to start with this. Yeah, so I change colors here in the light. I've got to change color in the shadow. If I make, yeah, so this has got to be a different color than this because this was a different color than that. All right, I need something really dark for that. That's stem. And on these little things like a stem, you've got to have light and shadow. If you ignore it on a little thing like the stem and everything else has light and shadow, and I've set up the light intentionally so that everything does have light and shadow. So if you ignore it on the stem, then it's going to look really funny, because if something's round and has a form, it's going to need light and shadow. So even on really tiny objects, and even when I can't see it, I add the light and shadow in. Okay, well, I've put off the flowers as long as I can, and now what? So I know it's just going to look bad. I'm just going to accept it right now. It's going to look bad for a little while because of this paper. So I'm just, for all these flowers that are the same, I'm going to just use the same color to put in the shadows. And usually with flowers, when I haven't drawn all the light and shadow, I start with the shadow colors because I'm sort of drawing now. And remember I said the options to me were to draw all the flowers in, all the petals, or to kind of have to do quite a bit of drawing while I'm painting. Oh, might be confused already. This is going to be that really dark places in there. I'm going to put the light side on that one so I don't lose track of it. Okay, let's try a light color too now. Yeah, I've never painted dahlias before in my life, and I just want to thank my student for giving me the idea to paint dahlias. And I don't know, I've never even had dahlias in my garden, but this year dahlias just seem to be everywhere. And it's super nice because they're such a late summer flower, really a fall flower. They're still blooming here in Rhode Island. Oops, I accidentally picked up the yellow. Oh no, that's the same one. Why does it look so different? Maybe, I don't know, I think I accidentally picked up the wrong pastel, but I need some pink. Things are, let's see what this will do. That really is the pink flower, which I have totally left out of the picture. Okay, so this is the pink one. And up here's the pink one. And then, I don't know what to call that one right there, but the little dark one. All right, and here's the middle of that flower. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to switch over and use my more expensive pastels at some point. I mean, that's basically why I have them, is for painting flowers. I'll just see how far I can go with just the Rembrandts. Oh, you're broken already in there. I could feel it. Oh, Kelly, half the pastel. Luckily, it fell out in the box, but it was actually broken. All right, and there's some other really dark stuff in there. I wonder what I could use. I wonder if I could use this too. And there's a few places in here I can see the wall. Okay, so I gotta do something else about this wall right now. Okay, and I think it would help me if I knew where. There's a petal that goes here, and then the center of that flower is there. All right, I think I want to use something even, I'm not going to use white, but something lighter here. See if I can get some of this a little lighter. This is a really light blue I'm using in case it looks white in the Oh yeah, and some of your design you have to show your design going into the shadow too. Otherwise, it doesn't look right. So. Okay, so that just gives that a little more liveliness. I feel like I don't have anything dark enough, just the usual anxiety. It's a really dark purple, but unfortunately a lot of times these really dark purples look gray. I'm not really sure what that was. Maybe I just need to also maybe this lighter in here. I feel like this is pretty good value, but it's not really the right color. So I'm just going to try some gray. So it's pouring down rain out here today, so I'm just going to work on this until I can't work on it anymore, and until I spray it, and that'll be just part one. Yeah, I was hoping that would be more different than it was, but... I should break this. All right, things are a mess here. Let's try to get a little more organized again. Yeah, that was a great color. Actually, I'm going to try a little, this is a lighter violet than I used before. And so that is the 4th color I've used in this background. So let's see, that's probably about it for what I can do with it. And I wanted some of that color to drift across, so I just did it a little, with a little bit of a lighter touch. Okay, and so I could definitely work on this pumpkin more. So I've got it in light and shadow, and then what I can start to do is try to find this in-between color in here that'll start to make it look round. So anything that is round has to be in light, half light, and shadow at the minimum. Anything that's square can just be light and shadow. But there's quite a bit of reflected light too. And let's see, maybe a little yellower in some of this. More of a skim. There's some things are they're just not really that colorful there. The light is just kind of skimming over these flowers back here, I think. So I just want to take some of that color out of them right there. And then I need to get these guys more pink up here. Let's see what this will do. Yeah, what the heck? Okay, trying to get rid of that. Probably can't really get rid of it until I spray it. And then I need more pink up in that flower too. So I can feel that it, it's starting to resist my putting more pastel down, especially up on these flowers with these kind of pink colors and all there. You can't do that many layers with them. Okay, so I was working down here. So I'm sort of looking for a burnt sienna that I could use to make these shadows a little darker. Yep, that's good. The orange stripes in shadow a little darker. And then the last thing I want to do is work on this thing again. Golly, I'm afraid it's going to be a nightmare. And some of these flowers are darker inside. Maybe I'll try to put a few more of these lights in. Okay, I think that's really, I could maybe do a little more up here. I didn't even really get it all filled in completely. So this is a red. I'm going to use it on top of the purple I used. Oh, golly, back to this thing. Oh yeah, and I didn't use the gray in the spot that's supposed to be behind. Okay, and there's a tiny bit of light. So I'm just, trying stuff here. There's a little bit of light right in here on that base. So, like I said, glass doesn't take light and shadow like other objects. So don't look for light and shadow on your glass. There's a few places where the paper's still showing through, so I just want to get some pastel in there. I think I let this thing's looking a little too wide. Let's see if I can fix that drawing a little bit before I spray it. Whoa, golly, that's wrong. Go ahead and break it, Jeneane. You're going to use it again. Golly. Okay, just one more thing here.